Okay, so this is going to be a brief overview of the first 4 weeks of the IB extended essay. So we're going to talk a little bit about what students are doing and what the supervisors should be doing at this point. All right, so there is a extended essay overview lesson. So if you click on that, you can watch that video lesson. It's going to kind of give you some Cliff's Notes version of like what the EE kind of is. All right, but the students have gone through this information, and there has been a task having the students acknowledge that they do understand what the EE is and what the expectations are. Also note that there is an EE guide there, and I call back to that guide every once in a while in my video lessons. And we have a general overview of Unit 1. Unit 1 is the first 4 weeks. We have a video lesson of what the EE is. Again, a little bit more specific details, but also the roles. All right, the important roles. So if you're a supervisor, you definitely want to look at that. And if you're a student, you definitely want to look at it, because you're going to need to know what the student's responsible for, what the student does or does not do, what the supervisor does and does not do, what the SBC does and does not do, what the school does and does not do. All right. Week 1, we have just a basic overview of what the EE is, and then there's a reflection that the students do, what their initial response is, and they've already done that. Must-see TV, Week 2 video overview. It covers these 2 lessons. All right, deals with the requirements and another reflection, as well as the research. All right, and another reflection. There sure is a lot of reflections, right? Because one of the major components of the extended essay is reflection. All right, so that's really important to get everybody in the mindset of being able to not just do something, but also reflect on, what you're thinking and what the student's feeling and experiencing. Week 3 overview deals with exactly that. Week 3 lessons, which is lesson 4 and lesson 5, academic honesty. And there's a discussion area that has students asking questions, and then writing a bibliography, because that is a required component of the extended essay. There is no task. There used to be a task where students would have to, go and correct a bibliography, but that's no longer being done. There is a video there of what an annotated bibliography is, because that's important for students to know. All right. Then we have the Week 4 overview. That's what students are working on right now, where students are going to be exposed to how the extended essay is going to be assessed. Any supervisors need to also know how the extended essay is going to be assessed. There is a reflection there, and I've provided a scoring rubric. Students are going to have to end up using that rubric to score their own work later on in the EE process. Supervisors are also going to need to know what the rubric is and use the rubric to determine the predicted score or predicted grades of each of their students' extended essays. So having access to that would be a really good thing, and being familiar with what the rubric is and how those points are scored. I threw in the guide there once again, just in case it got forgotten at the top of this whole course sequence. All right, and then research and reflection. We have a lesson about research and reflection, and this is important for not just the students, but also the supervisors, because we are going to discuss in that lesson what the 3 checkpoints are where the student has to meet with their supervisor. We have the first reflection session that takes place once the student has undertaken some preliminary research. Now, that preliminary research usually involves around, not just a subject area, but a particular topic. All right. So as they're immersing themselves in that topic, they might start then getting some ideas about what a particular research question could be. All right. So by the I think the week 10 is when students are working on some research so that they can get a better idea of what that research question is. So that's the first reflection session, and that's going to be taking place with the supervisor. Okay? Now, how that works if we are not in a face-to-face situation, video conferencing would be, a pretty good situation. It also would allow you to kind of like determine how long that meeting has taken place. Every student should document how much time they have spent with their supervisor. Every supervisor should document how much time they are spending with each of their students. The reason for this is because you are going to have to identify and write down how much time you have spent with one another. All right? The student says they've spent 15 hours with the supervisor and the supervisor has seen the student once for 30 minutes. You can see how that can be a problem. So documentation is really important when it comes to this, all right? This is the first session. Second session is once you've taken a significant amount of your research and begun to formulate an argument in response to your research question. All right, by the end of the session, both you and your supervisor should feel confident there's a clear and refined research question, viable arguments, sufficient sources, and clear understanding of the writing process. We usually do this by the time the rough draft or the first draft is completed. So this second reflection will take place upon our return from summer vacation. All right, so this is after the rough draft has been completed and your supervisor has reviewed the rough draft. This is when the supervisor can provide verbal feedback. The feedback for the draft will be given verbally. Now, the student can record the verbal feedback. The student can take down notes. The student can do both. But the feedback is verbally facilitated. All right, and then the final reflection takes place once the extended essay has been submitted. So once the EE has been submitted, right, now this is a celebration of the completion of the essay and a reflection of the student's process and what the student has learned. Now, this is all going to be a part of the RPPF form. All right, so within each of these reflections, those are going to be the parts where the student is writing in the first reflection session. That's going to be the first part of the RPPF form. The interim reflection, the middle part, that's going to be what you're going to do in the fall. And then the viva voce, that's going to be done at the very end. And then after the viva voce has taken place, now the supervisor can write their reflective their reflections. And remember, the RPPF form can be pulled up right here. So you'll see that there's a first reflection, interim, and final reflection, just like the chart says. And then the supervisor's comments are going to be there. Okay? Notice that the first reflection session will be dated and the supervisor will initial. The interim, it's dated and the initials. The final, the viva voce, which will take place in December, date and initialed. All right, and then that will be sent to the SBC to then be delivered through IBIS into the e-coursework area. Okay? That is essentially what the first unit is all about. Just a kind of sneak peek ahead, beginning the process, right? Subject area exemplars. If you're a supervisor and want to see what some subject area exemplars look like, you can go there. If you're a student and you want to see what subject area exemplars look like, boom, they're right there. And then the student will choose the subject and topic and start formulating a research question. All right. And then undertaking your initial research, and boom, by the end of lesson 10, the first reflection checkpoint, the inquiry reflection checkpoint, will take place. So all students and supervisors need to know that this reflection checkpoint will be the first time the supervisors and the students will be meeting face-to-face or via Skype or Zoom or whatever the tool is going to be. Probably in Schoology you'll have, you can use the conferencing tool in there. And you will be able to have that meeting. Okay? That's it for this part of the process. If you have any questions, whether you're a student or a supervisor, feel free to contact myself or Miss Grimm, and we'll do our best to ensure that you have a good understanding of what's expected. Thank you.